I had a knock with the bat against Worcester once, and we were hitting out at the end, and I managed to pull one of their bowlers for a decent six, and I stuck it on my Instagram and tagged him in it because I'm fairly good mates with him. And then I remember the next time we played them at home at Bristol, completely I'd forgotten about it because it was a year or two later, and he bumped me again, and this time it was a different scenario, so I just let it go by, and he ran through and he said, "Stick that on your effing Instagram, bud." And then, yeah, I thought it caught me off guard, but it made me chuckle at the time, actually.
Hello everyone, welcome to In the Cordon, the place where every cricketer wants to be. I'm your host Callum Dunk, and thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Please ensure that you follow, like and subscribe to our social media platforms for more updates about the cricket that's going on around the world, as well as our latest episodes on YouTube, Facebook and Spotify. Hello everyone, welcome to In the Cordon, the place where every cricketer wants to be. I'm your host Callum Dunk, and thank you so much for tuning into this episode. On this episode, we're going to be talking with left-arm pace bowler David Payne, who's previously played for the Perth Scorchers, Adelaide Strikers, and has gone on to play one-day international cricket for England. David, welcome to In the Cordon, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Callum. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. Really excited to be hearing more about your career. We'll touch on your recent experience playing for the Adelaide Strikers, your time in the BBL, and all of your career achievements so far. So before we get started, we're going to go to our opening segment, which is called Legends and Sledges. David, has there ever been a time where you've sledged an opponent as a fast bowler when you're in the heat of the battle? Has an opponent come back at you with something whilst you're batting? Or have you just heard a teammate in the field give someone a ripping sledge to put them off their game?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not a huge sledger myself. I'm more of if I'm angry, I'll just stick to a hard stare and try and let the ball do the talking. But I suppose as a bowler, you always cop it a little bit yourself. I've not copped it too bad over time. There was one with social media these days, I remember I had a knock with the bat against Worcester once, and we were hitting out at the end, and I managed to pull one of their bowlers for a decent six, and I stuck it on my Instagram and tagged him in it because I'm fairly good mates with him. And then I remember the next time we played them at home at Bristol, completely I'd forgotten about it because it was a year or two later, and he bumped me again, and this time it was a different scenario, so I just let it go by, and he ran through and he said, "Stick that on your effing Instagram, bud." And then, yeah, I thought it caught me off guard, but it made me chuckle at the time, actually.
No, that's a good one. We've heard some funny ones previously, but I think that one's right up there. David, you've just been in Adelaide. You were the replacement player for Rashid Khan when he unfortunately got injured. But what a tremendous opportunity for you to come and play at one of the best stadiums in the world, Adelaide Oval. What was your recent experience playing for the Strikers like?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. Let's say it begun with, I guess, really a lot of challenges. I guess it wasn't, as a team and personally, there were a lot of ups and downs. We didn't set the world alight to begin with. We won a couple, lost a few. Adelaide Oval, like you say, one amazing ground. Really lucky to play there last year, but then to call it home this year was something I was really looking forward to. But yeah, learned very quickly that actually it's one of the best batting surfaces in the world, probably. And that proved really challenging, but it was something where I think as a bowling unit, I tried really hard to learn from guys who played there a lot, and from the bowling coach. Yeah, and actually just ended up really enjoying the challenge there. But like I say, as a ground, there is probably no better place having experienced that, especially New Year's Eve. Just to see it really full house, it was an amazing experience, like I say. And then to get on the second half of the tournament, the run we got onto, that was just awesome. Because I thought when I signed for them, I thought this is genuinely a group that can really compete for the title. I really believed that when I joined them, and it was a really strong squad. And I thought we didn't do ourselves justice in the first half of the tournament, but actually the second half, yeah, we really showed what we can do. We got on a really good run, and that was momentum in T20 cricket's huge. Everyone knows that, and it was really nice to get on a run like that and build performances and finish really strongly. And it was obviously Brisbane Heat were probably the strongest side in the whole the whole way through. Yeah, it wasn't a surprise they went on to win it for me. But as I say, I think for the Strikers, it was just really, really nice to show what we could do.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of our ex-guests on the podcast, in Josh Brown, was able to make a really big score in that final. And Sometimes that's just the game of T20 cricket. But it'd be really interesting to compare, David, your experience playing in Adelaide versus the team that you played for the previous season in the Perth Scorchers. And obviously, you're lucky enough to be involved with winning a title for the Perth Scorchers, a game that was extremely exciting. Cooper Connolly and Nick Hobson getting you over the line there at Optus. So would you be able to tell us about some of your fondest memories playing for the Scorchers? And I suppose, what's the differences between the two franchises that you played for here in Australia?
Yeah, well, I guess the memories with Perth obviously are all very, very fond, really positive memories. I was, again, really excited when I got the opportunity to go over for the second half of the tournament. I felt quite comfortable going over there because there was a few faces I already knew in Cameron Bancroft who'd come over, Andrew Ty. I played a little bit with Peter Hatzeglu as well in some franchise stuff. And so I knew there were a few faces that when going over, a few friendly faces in the challenge room, which really calmed the nerves already. And then, so I felt like I settled into the group really quickly and really easily. And then from there, like I said, they were obviously a very, very good team. And I think I just really enjoyed the group. I really enjoyed learning from the guys there. They got a really experienced bowling attack, which I knew would really benefit me. And then, as I said, they all just made me feel really welcome. So then when I was playing, I felt very relaxed, very comfortable. And I don't know, as a bowler, I personally felt really comfortable. Optus having big square boundaries, I felt like it suited my game really well. And as I say, it just felt like I fitted into their setup really well. And then obviously, like you've touched on, the campaign itself just went pretty perfectly from the time I arrived. I can only remember maybe one loss, I think, the time I was there. And and the final actually, obviously, going into with 5-6 overs left of the game, I think most of us thought that the game was gone. I think we just thought it was going to be too much to chase, and actually, it was one of those almost what we'd say over here, like a Sky Sports classic, that it just had everything that game. And then, like you say, Connolly, Hobson, those two guys hadn't really batted the whole tournament much. So actually, it made it even more incredible what they did, especially Cooper. I think it was his second game of the tournament. So to do what he did at such a young age, it was incredible. And obviously then it meant the celebrations were pretty wild as well, just because of the nature of the game. In terms of comparing the two franchises themselves, I guess all teams try and what you try and do in a competition is use your home advantage. And I think what people talk about, seeing it on the other side of the rope, I think what people talk about with Perth is one thing they do hugely well. Everyone, I think, is a little bit fearful of going to the Optus and trying to beat Perth on their home patch. They are an incredibly strong team at Optus. And that's probably something they pride themselves on. They know if you win your home games, you're always going to be in a decent position of finishing in the knockouts. But no huge differences apart from the grounds. Adelaide, they're almost opposite grounds. Adelaide Oval's bigger straight and small square, as Optus the other way around. And obviously has a little bit more pace and bounce in the pitch, where I think gives it a little bit more for the bowlers. Whereas I say, what I touched on, Adelaide Oval just seemed one of the best batting tracks in the world, I thought. But no, the way they're run, two great franchises, really enjoyed both setups and both environments.
Yeah, it's fantastic to hear your insights, David. And such a key part of T20 cricket, which you played a lot of, is your tactics. And you mentioned how ground sizes can certainly impact your tactics. In Australia, we do tend to have the larger grounds. We see MCG, Optus are examples of really big grounds with big square boundaries, whereas the Adelaide Oval has those longer straight boundaries and, sort of hitting 50 metres to each of the square ones. So you do have to change the way that you bowl. But what are some of the things that you've learned from playing franchise cricket that you've been able to implement into your own game? For example, you played with AJ Tye. I'm sure it would have shown you one of his 18 various slower balls that he's got in his arsenal. But how do you change your tactics, and what have you learned from some of the players that you've had the privilege to play with?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that the main thing I'd firstly say is that you are always learning at whatever age. And that was one of the main things I think I took from this experience with Adelaide, that you tend to go over there and show your skills and try and do your best ball and, what your best qualities are, and just bring that to the table. But then actually very quickly, I think in England, you can get sometimes bigger boundaries and some more tired wickets that tend to help with slower balls a bit more, especially the competitions go on. But as I say, I think that seemed to work really well at Optus last year. And so actually with Optus, I didn't feel like there was a huge difference. That's why I think it fitted so well, because it felt like I just put my game at Optus and it worked really well. Whereas I think the huge difference, say for me this year, was trying that at Adelaide. I certainly learned very quickly that I wasn't going to just be able to bowl slower balls into the length with the small square boundaries. And it was very quickly trying to learn what works well at Adelaide. And, you know, there's a thing in almost franchise cricket at the moment, I think, with death bowling. Everyone's trying to really work out how to nail death bowling. It's a really difficult task at the moment. I think batters are getting so good at hitting the right ball at the end and being so destructive at the death. I think, as I say, bowlers are really trying to seek out how to be the best death bowler in the world. And that's certainly one of the things I'm striving for. And I think there's a real balance at the moment. There's probably a few guys talking about you're always trying to be unpredictable. You're trying to keep the batter guessing. I think one of the quick things that I learned with the power surge in the Big Bash is it's very difficult to do that when you've only got two men out. So that was a very quick learning that actually that's an over that you've probably got to go the other way, and you've maybe just got to try and nail 6 Yorkers, especially at Adelaide Oval, and do your best at execution and take away all that unpredictability stuff and just try and execute as well as you can. And again, mate, and that was probably a thing with Australia. There was a lot of grounds that felt like they were quite small, and especially small square, and it went away from the idea of being unpredictable and, as I say, just went really on, right, I'm just going to try and execute Yorkers. I'm just going to be really good at nailing them. And I think that was what was working for me this time. As I say, second half, especially when performances picked up personally and with the team, I certainly felt as a bowling unit, we actually went back to making things real simple. And it wasn't about bowling a different ball every ball. It was just about executing your Yorkers and getting your field right. So as I say, that was a huge learning for me this winter. And I think the main thing is that you always are adaptable as a bowler, and that one game, if you've got Optus and you've got big square boundaries, it might be that you're going into length and it might be slow balls, it might not. And then you go to Adelaide Oval and it might be, right, there's no slow balls this game and there's nothing into length at the death. It's all just Yorkers. And say, for me, that's where you're always learning, always watching and trying to learn from the best, and just trying to be ready on the day. The pitch is always going to be different. So say, you just got to be very adaptable in this game.
Looking for the ultimate teamwear solutions for your sports club? Look no further than Macron Adelaide. Their extensive range includes a wide variety of jerseys for various sports, including soccer, AFL, volleyball, baseball, basketball, hockey, athletics, netball, rugby, and cricket, of course. Whether you opt for a custom design or choose something from their catalogue, you can trust the quality in their products. At Macron Adelaide, they pride themselves on providing top-notch teamwear solutions for clubs of all kinds. Visit them today and find out why they're the go-to brand for sports teams around the country and around the world. Macron Adelaide, for clubs that mean business. It's really interesting to hear about how the tactics vary from different grounds and different pitches. And, you know, you've had opportunities to play in England as well as in Australia, and you've also had the chance to make your one-day international debut for England as well. Such a fantastic achievement. Getting your first cap is always something that's very memorable. Would you be able to tell us about your emotions when I suppose you got selected in the squad? But more importantly, how did you feel when you were actually getting the nod to play? Because you took one for 38 on debut and bowled 9 overs. So really economical performance.
Yeah, so the whole England experience so far for me, obviously, it's just hugely positive. My first call up was actually during COVID time, and it was that I guess almost the main squad, if you like, had been picked for a one-day series for Pakistan, and they all ended up having to be bubbled with COVID, and the series was going to crack on as normal. So they kind of picked the next best squad, I guess, that they could, and that's how I got my first opportunity to be in and around the group. And I think from there, did quite well, and that's why I got invited to the West Indies for a T20 series, and then from that the Netherlands tour. And I'd say that it was kind of the third tour by that point, and all I'd been around the group, really enjoyed my experience, but just been running the drinks for that time. But actually, yeah, I still remember meeting Joss he just caught me in the corridor of the hotel one evening the night before the game and grabbed me to say that I'd be playing and making my debut the next day. And I just remember, butterflies and so much excitement in me. And then just going back to my room to tell my wife, who'd come over on the hope that I was going to make my debut, and telling her, and I guess the excitement to be able to share between us, and then ringing my brother at home, ringing my family, telling them. And yeah, that was just a really exciting moment. And then actually the next day, something England do really well, and I think make it even more special, is when you do the cap presentation, allowing your family to come out onto the field with you and be in the huddle. And so to have my wife and my daughter next to me when I'm being presented my cap, I'd say just made it incredibly special, and something I'll never forget. Luckily to have the video of it as well. They always record the moment, so something I've always got my phone and I can always look at, and always puts a smile on my face. And the day itself, to have family there, to have friends there, it was just the perfect day, and it's probably always going to be my fondest memory in cricket.
Oh, for sure, mate. It's a tremendous achievement to play for your country. What does playing for England mean to you? You've had one opportunity to do it so far, but you'll certainly be looking to strive to play for the Three Lions again.
Yeah, no doubt, mate. Absolutely. I think that's what we're all striving for, really, when you're in the professional game. And it's something, yeah, I've strived for since I started playing, and still, like you say, really striving for now. I just want to get back in that setup. I think been hindered by injuries for the last couple of years, I think, which has set me back a little bit. But certainly felt much better with the strikers just then, certainly at the back end of the tournament. So I feel really positive going into this summer in England, like I can get my foot back in the door with them and get back in the camp. Yeah, and it does. It means a huge amount. Obviously, I think there are thousands and thousands of people who play cricket in this country, and all, I guess all would love to strive to play international cricket. I think that's what playing sport for. Everyone strives to be the best they can, and I just feel incredibly lucky that I've managed to achieve that. I think the pride I feel within my family, and the support they've given me throughout this whole journey. And so I think it's just immense pride that you feel. And like you say, for a country like England, there's steeped in huge history here. So it's always gives me a little bit of tingles, goosebumps, almost talking about it still, that I'm one of those people that managed to represent this country. Yeah, I think makes me feel just incredibly proud of myself.
Absolutely. And I certainly know some of the history that you're referring to. I was lucky enough to go to Lord's in January and just soak up every bit of cricketing history that was there in the museum, and, going through the visitors' change rooms. And it's just obviously such an important part of English cricket. And something that you touched on there was some of the setbacks that you've had in your career. Cricket is a game of highs and lows, and obviously you've had successes winning a BBL title, playing for England, but you did touch on some injuries. So would you be able to tell us about some of the setbacks that you've had in your career injury-wise, and what did you do to come back bigger and better?
Yeah, I think I was really lucky. I think in the first part of my career, actually, I didn't get too many injuries, and I was really lucky in that sense. But I think as I got older, and especially, like I said, I reckon the last 2 years have almost been the most difficult of my career in terms of injury, because I've had a long-term ankle problem that I had surgery. I had surgery in 2018 on it. Went really swimmingly kind of for 4 years or so, and then same problem almost came back, and had to play a whole summer on it, which was really difficult because you try and avoid surgery at all costs. I think in the summer, if you can kind of keep playing and find a way to get through, you do, just to be able to keep putting in performances what you can. But it's certainly the whole time I knew I wasn't at my best, and I was playing through a lot of pain and a lot of painkillers, and that's it's not the way you really want to be playing the game. So took the opportunity to have surgery in February. Again, it kind of solved one problem, caused another. And as much as the physical, I think the mental battle with everything is what's really been draining for me over the last couple of years. And the questions that you then go through of like, is it ever going to feel right again? Am I ever going to get back to playing the way I want to play and feel like I'm playing at 100% and can just not think about injuries? And it really, like I say, wears you down and takes a lot of energy out of you. And through that summer, it led that I'd ended up going under the knife again in September. And I'd say those sorts of decisions you really don't take lightly. So it's always really scary making those decisions, but it almost felt like I didn't have a choice, and it almost felt a little bit for myself in my own head of it was like a last ditch solution. And yeah, again, the stress that you go through making these decisions and wondering then going into it, what am I going to be like when it comes out? Is this going to solve it, or is this the end of my career? You really go to those lengths, and the stress that puts you through. But I think you've got to be resilient. You've got to try and flip and think of the positives and think, no, this is going to solve it. I'm going to get it back on track. And we're really lucky, I guess, in professional setups that then you have S&Cs and physios that then when you come to rehab, they're really good at looking after you. They make sure you do things really thoroughly. You've got all the support you need to get through things like that. Yeah, so I think we're really lucky in that regard. So then you just work hard, I guess. You get your program from your S&C. You make sure you do everything they need you to do. With same with the physio, and I guess you, like I say, you make sure you don't leave any stone unturned, so that you give it every possible chance to get back fit again. And so, like I say, touch wood at the moment, that was the case through September, October, November, and it put me in a really good position going into to be able to accept the strikers opportunity. And I say as the tournament went on, it just felt better and better, and everything felt great. That's certainly, yeah, injuries are certainly one of the huge setbacks you go through in our career. I think the other ones is, like you say, you touched on. There's, I think in this game, unfortunately, there's almost way more lows than there are highs. I think, especially over here, we've got 18 teams, and the chances of you kind of winning a trophy, 1 in 18, and it's really difficult. It's really competitive. So actually, trophies itself have been difficult. But actually, yeah, you don't. I think, yeah, as I touched on, there's a lot of lows, and there's certainly, when I look back, unfortunately, some of the lows are the first things that come to mind. But actually, I really remember 2 experiences of T20 cricket, both times ending up in the car driving home and just being in tears, feeling like I'd let my team down and completely lost in the game. One was a quarter final, and that really, it's really hard. And as, like I say, you kind of hit these really low moments, but actually, I think in those moments, all you can do is try and pull on actually the fond memories and think of the good you've done, and try and almost try and fade out the bad memories. But although they're never going to disappear, they do become a bit more blurry. But you can kind of look back and go, actually, at that moment I was really low, but look where I've managed to bounce back to and really pick myself up. So yeah, it's a huge part of the game, but I think you always find mechanisms to bounce back, really.
No, it's fantastic. And even playing cricket at a grade level, I've certainly experienced, positive thoughts. I've experienced negative thoughts. What are some of the things that you do, David, to maintain a positive mindset? You talk about, going back to positive memories that you've had. And what does it mean as well when you do have that success and you've able to get over those mental demons?
Yeah, I think the success is it's that feeling that makes it all worth it. Those times where you've been really low and you've been in tears and you're wondering if you're still good enough, and all, like you say, all those demons. I think then, like I say, when you have success, and every time it's just really banking that feeling and thinking that, no, I am good enough, and really locking that in. Yeah, and as you say, the mechanisms for me, I think, like you say, it's just trying to really, for me, hone in on those positive memories. And I have a bank on my phone of kind of little videos, whether that's bowling, batting, whatever it is. And I kind of, sometimes I think when you're feeling low, I just flick through those, and it's almost, yeah, strange as it sounds, almost just a reminder to yourself of what you can do and what you have done and what you've achieved. And that's actually fairly new to me, that I've done that over the last couple of years, but I've found it really, really strong and really powerful to be able to look through these, and let's say it instantly just reminds you what you can do. And I think that's huge, to help you forget that everyone has these bad moments, and the quicker you can move on from them and forget that it happens in the sport, and unfortunately you can't have a good day every day. Yeah, the quicker you bounce back and be able to be in a good mindset.
No, that's really good stuff to hear, David, and would help a lot of young cricketers at home. David, I just wanted to ask you about how you see world cricket at the moment. We're seeing T20 leagues and franchises becoming so much more common, particularly in the last 2 years, where we've seen the introduction of the SA20 and the ILT20 in particular. They certainly have affected the Big Bash tournament with players leaving mid-season or just before finals, which is a little bit frustrating as a BBL supporter, but it's part of the game. It's part of world cricket as we know it now. How do you see cricket scheduling to start with? And how do you see the overall game of T20 cricket potentially impacting things like county championship and things that go on in the English summer?
Yeah, like you touched on, I think, to be fair, I have the same feelings as you. I think that the moment the schedule is too packed. I think this time, especially over the English winter, I find it a little bit crazy, the amount of leagues that go on at the same time. Trying to, like I say, for me, when I'm trying to watch and learn, I'm always keen to watch as much cricket as I can. It feels impossible to keep up with the leagues at the moment when you've got, like say, at one point, 3-4 leagues going on at the same time, because there's also Bangladesh, I think, starting soon, or the SA is obviously just finished, but then there was the ILT20 going on at the same time. And I found it really strange in a way, Big Bash, that you kind of get to the finals and, we saw it within our own camp, but looking at Brisbane Heat's camp, and you kind of get to these knockout stages with one squad, and then you lose 2 or 3 of your most experienced or best players at that time. The impact you can have, I think, within the group is worrying at times. You worry that it could really shake things up in your camp, and how is everyone going to feel? But so I think the main thing for me is actually working out a schedule at the moment that all these leagues can almost work harmoniously, I guess, and in harmony around the world and in the 12-month schedule. But I do also understand there's only so much time, and I'm not sure how that's all gonna go in the future. Really, I think in England at the moment it's so steeped in history with 4-day cricket. I guess I'm not worried it's going to disappear at the moment, but who knows? In 10, 20 years, I think T20 looks really strong at the moment, but who knows how it's going to change. As I've always seen arguments of, like, is there too much T20 cricket now at the moment? It just seems to be on 24/7 wherever you put the TV on. There's a game of T20 cricket, and is that going to kill it a little bit that there's so much T20? And we've seen a lot in the press, obviously, about Test cricket as well at the moment. I'm completely behind that. That I think everyone who plays professionally, I still believe everyone will say the pinnacle of the game is Test cricket, and that's really what most, or if not everyone, is striving to play. So I'm really hoping they do manage to find a way to make sure that stays the most important format, and that the T20 cricket stays, because it is great, but that they can work at the same time. I certainly don't want to see one format have to fall because of another one. So unfortunately, I would say I don't have the answers, but I'm hoping that actually what's going to happen in time is that everyone's going to make sure they work as hard as they can to make sure everything works in unison.
Yeah, it's fantastic to hear a player's perspective, and obviously you've been a player in the recent Big Bash, and having your teammates leave on the eve of finals. We see players like Jamie Overton and Adam Hose, who are really, important to the Strikers team, just suddenly vanish, and it's disappointing from a fan's perspective. But hopefully, Cricket Australia will shorten the window that the BBL is played in, so they're 10 games in a 6-week period rather than an 8-week period, and I think that will go a long way to condensing fixtures. Will go a long way to solving some of the problems we have been experiencing. But David, what are some of your goals and aspirations for the rest of your career? You're 32, you've had a fantastic career playing first-class cricket, playing some international cricket as well, but also having the opportunity to play T20 cricket around the world. So what are some of your things that you really want to tick off the bucket list, I suppose, before you hang up the boots?
Yeah, I've actually, at the end of the last English summer, I made the decision to move to a white ball county contract here. I haven't retired from red ball at the moment. I've left the door slightly ajar, but that was very much a body-based decision. As I touched on around my ankle and stuff going on with that, it just feels like that gives me the best opportunity to give my career a bit more longevity. And it was an easier decision to make thanks to franchise cricket and I guess the way the world has gone, that you can be on a decent white ball contract here and still get the opportunity to try and play in the winter. And so aspiration wise, I say I'd always had huge aspirations to play Test cricket, but I think my body was kind of telling me. I think the likelihood of that was fading, unfortunately, and I'm still monitoring that. I'm not sure at the moment if red ball cricket is going to be possible. As I say, my body felt really good going through the Big Bash, but does that mean I just stick at white ball cricket and stick to 4 overs every few days instead of pushing it and going, actually, I can get back to that? So as I say, we'll still monitor that going into the season and see what's right for me at the time. So with that being a bit unknown, but I've certainly still got huge aspirations in white ball cricket. As I've touched on, I'd love to get back in that England setup. I think I'm just always striving for success in the tournaments. I'd love to, as I say, franchise cricket is a really cool thing to be a part of. I think everyone knows the IPL is probably the pinnacle of that. And I'd love to just experience that once, I think, to see what it's all about and see what all the hype is about. And but it does look amazing to be a part of. I think that's a little bit with part of it for me. I think it would be really cool to try and play in as many leagues as possible. I think that the opportunity it gives you to travel the world, and to give my family as well that opportunity, that if they can come with me, give my daughter the chance to see these amazing places, I think is really special and really cool as well. So to say, huge aspirations still to do as much as I can, and yeah, with a little bit of unknown with the red ball at the moment.
Yeah, it's fantastic, mate. We certainly hope to see you down here in Adelaide again, playing for the Strikers at some point. And I just wanted to say a big thank you for coming on the podcast and giving up your time. And thanks for zooming in from the UK.
No problem at all, mate. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you so much for watching In the Cordon at home. Make sure that you follow all of our social media pages for our upcoming episode. Cheers.